Hello everyone, good afternoon in Europe and good evening in Asia. My name is Sasireka Rajendran and I work as a project manager at the Asia Pacific Association of Agricultural Research Institutions, APAARI, that is collaborating today to organize this event. I would like to welcome all of you joining us from different parts of the world in today's regional insights and challenges in investment in innovation for sustainable agriculture intensification. The side event is a part of webinar series to boost innovation and scaling up of sustainable agricultural intensification, which is jointly organized by APAARI and the Commission for Sustainable Agriculture Intensification, CoSAI. Today's event is also co-organized by Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, FARA, and FONTAGRO. This meeting is being recorded to enable us to prepare the synthesis for wider dissemination. Today's webinar will build on insights and challenges in innovation in investment from Africa, the Asia Pacific, and Latin America and the Caribbean, gathered through previous regional dialogues. Through this event will identify opportunities for cross-regional learning, share perspectives on challenging areas and overcoming challenges, and integrate regional approaches into the TAP Action Plan 2022 to 2025 and into GFAR's area of collective action. In this 1.5 hour webinar, we will be having a presentation on evidence supporting regional decisions in innovation investment, regional views on the status, and panel discussions. We encourage you to post your questions and interact with the speakers during the webinar. My colleagues Scarlett and Josephina from CoSAI would be assisting me in handling the questions from the chat box. With no further delays, we will start the meeting by inviting Dr. Ravi Ketrapal, Executive Secretary of APAARI, to welcome you all. We are very happy to announce that Dr. Ravi Ketrapal also chairs the Global Forum on Agricultural Research and Innovation. We welcome you, Dr. Ravi, to provide your remarks. Over to you, Dr. Ravi.
Thank you, Sasi. And I think you have almost given the welcome speech, all the points well covered. Anyway, I'll pick up some key points. Well, on behalf of Commission of Sustainable Agriculture Intensification, which is led by here, the Secretariat Deputy Head, Dr. David Scherer, and on behalf of all the regional organizations, FARA, Dr. Yemi, and for FONTAGRO, Dr. Eugenia, and also on behalf of TAP and on behalf of Global Forum of Agriculture Research, which is here presented by Dr. Hildegard. I have a proud pleasure and privilege both because it's quite a joint webinar, jointly organized. I have a proud pleasure and privilege to welcome you all at this side event, as Shashi mentioned, side event of 8th TAP Partner Assembly on Regional Insight and Challenges in Investment in Innovation for Sustainable Agriculture Intensification. This is one of the 7 side events Tropical Agriculture Platform is organizing. And just 2 hours back, 1.5 hours back, we just finished one on the science policy interface, which was very interesting. And I hope we'll make this one equally interactive and interesting. Well, agriculture innovations, they're key to achieve the sustainable food system, as highlighted in the recent, as re-highlighted in the recent UN Food System Summit, and always highlighted in all the global platforms as of today. But at this juncture, I may like to say that APAARI and CoSAI have entered into a partnership to organize a series of webinars on agriculture innovation. And we had 2 webinars already organized, one on the investment innovation landscape and other on decision tools or on pathways and approaches. And that is how we thought that the third one should bring in all the regional actors on one platform, because CoSAI is also engaged with all of them in the similar subject. So this actually highlights a lot of joint effort here And if you look at the activities of CoSAI, the driving force was the studies they have carried out on the innovation investment landscape, the gaps, and also on principles and matrices, which are quite key to what we are going to carry forward as a base information. Now, apart from CoSAI, I would say all the regional organizations, they have geared up the capacity development on agriculture innovation system in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, and have taken up many initiatives on innovation, mainly under the banner of Tropical Agriculture Platform, and trying to implement certain elements of the transformation in food system through innovation. So TAP has really done a lot, and GFAR has now, Global Forum of Agriculture Research and Innovation, has now come forward in taking up their collective actions, as we have recently seen with the case of Forgotten Food, where we have the global manifesto, a global plan of action, well discussed, well debated globally at many platforms. And again, in that, we find innovation at the center stage of what the whole collective action is going to revolve around in the operational aspect. Now, having said that, we see very clearly that partnerships at regional, global, and even at the national level is key to move forward to bring some change at the local level. And this is something which is so crucial, and this platform actually is encouraging us to really achieve that objective. This side event on regional insight and challenges will build on experiences in the regions and outcomes of various dialogues that we have jointly hosted with CoSAI. It will definitely help, as Sasi has already highlighted, in identifying common and specific challenges and opportunities across the region, and contribute in an excellent cross-regional learning, which we have been looking for. We'll try to achieve this in next 90 minutes or 100 minutes or so. And to distinguished speakers and panelists, and we will also be seeking the independent view of GFAR and TAP on their perspectives on the challenges and the way forward. Having said that, friends, we are now out there for very excellent deliberations, exciting deliberations, and I would like to thank you all once again for your keen interest and looking for a very interactive and fruitful session. Thank you. Over to you, Sasi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi, for nicely highlighting the importance of today's event and also setting a stage for further agenda items. With that, I would like to invite Mr. David Scherer, Deputy Head, Secretariat of the CoSAI, to present the evidence supporting regional decisions in innovation investment. Over to you, Mr. David.
Thanks so much, Sasi, and thanks everyone for joining. It's really exciting to be here, and it's exciting to be able to present, in many cases, for the first time to a public audience, some of the results and emerging evidence from CoSAI, the Commission for Sustainable Agricultural Intensification. And I won't provide too much background on the Commission because there's a lot of information to unpack in relationship to setting the scene for this discussion, which we're really looking forward to. But I want to highlight and emphasize that this really just sets the scene for what we hope is a very dynamic discussion with the three regions and the three regional leaders. I did join the earlier side event, which I thought was excellent. And I do want to try and build on that a little bit in terms of capacity building. But I also thought that it might be interesting to point out that it's a really excellent gender balance in this panel session, where we have a 50-50 split across the contributors. And so I'm quite proud that we're able to have that split in terms of our balance. So let me get into it if I can. If I can make the slides move forward. Sorry, So thank you. So I'm just going to present 3 pieces of evidence that are emerging from CoSAI. So the first piece of evidence is around the baseline understanding of the investment that already occurs at the moment, that's occurring in the Global South in terms of innovation investment. The second piece I'm going to present is some evidence that's been gathered through the analysis of 1.2 million research papers to look at where research is occurring in the Global South in agri-food systems and what the target of much of that research is in agri-food systems. And the third piece I'm going to look at is an analysis that was done through some modelling of what the investment gap and how we can act collectively together to fill that gap. So the first piece of evidence, and this is around the current baseline. Now, there's a huge amount of detail in this study, and I'm only going to touch on just a few key aspects from our point of view. We're happy to share the slideshow, and all of our evidence sits online on the CoSAI website, and I'd encourage all participants to have a look at that. And I'd also encourage participants to put forward their questions in the Q&A box at any stage, and we'll try and respond. But let's first of all turn to the baseline analysis and just a couple of key points. So the first point, there's about, well, what we estimate in the analysis, about $60 billion spent a year on innovation within agri-food systems. And there are 2 key points that I'd like to make with this analysis. The first is that national governments are the most important investors in innovation in agri-food systems. And that's national governments of the Global South, spending about 60% of that $60 billion. And so when we think about who's making this investment, it's important that we think and foremost think about the contribution that national governments are making. The second point that I wanted to make with this broad analysis is that if we look at the investment that's going into innovation for agri-food systems, it very much focuses on the economic and productivity zone. And there's only a very small amount of that investment in innovation, about 7%, that focuses on environment, and only about half of that investment has explicit outcomes shared around social impacts. And so that's important to think about when we're thinking about future food systems. And here, if we look at that section, so that's 60% of the $60 billion, so that's domestic governments of the Global South. If we look at that over a long period of time, say the last nearly 20 years or so, what we see is China's the dominant player. It's the large contributor, the large investor into overall innovation investment in the Global South. But you can see in the top part of the graph that the rest of the Global South is an important contributor. And if we look at the last 10 years or so, there's been about a 50% increase from the rest of the Global South. And I think this is really important for us to consider in terms of how collectively we can ensure that we keep growing that part of the investment. And now using the same data set, so that's national governments investing into this space, I wanted just to present, particularly for this regional dialogue, just a split across the regions. And the real emphasis that I want to make here, again, because of the dominance of China, about half the investment in innovation is being made in East Asia. But now if we consider that bulk of the investment coming from East Asia from national governments, and then if we flip our attention now to where the investment is targeted by bilateral, multilateral, and philanthropic investors in this space, we can see the base of the graph, nearly half is targeted towards sub-Saharan and in Africa. And so we can see this differing portfolio, and I think that message will come out throughout the presentation, where we see national governments, big contribution in Asia, and then bilateral, multilateral, and the development partners really making a significant effort in terms of innovation investment in sub-Saharan Africa. So that's the baseline understanding about where the money's flowing in terms of innovation investment. And now I just want to turn our attention briefly to some gaps and insights that we're gaining when we looked at 1.2 million research papers to really think about where this is occurring. So the first thing to point out again, you see quite a strong dominance by China, but joined here by China with India, Brazil, and others making a significant contribution in terms of where the research is happening. But you can see some lighter colors, so some lower areas of focus in this instance of crop research, particularly around some of those in the African continent. And then if we split that data out and we think about if the data is crop focused or if the data is fruit and vegetable focused, and we're just using this as an example to highlight some of the differences of future food systems that ensure nutritional outcomes, we can see a much lower level of intensity, particularly in Africa, for areas such as fruit and vegetable research. And then if we look broadly at it, and it's important to look at the scales on this one, we can see that much of the research and much of the research publication, and remember it's this research that's driving innovation, much of this research is still very much focused around that technological area and predominantly focused in those crop areas. And if we think about future food systems, it's important that we think broadly as well. But we also have to recognize that there are some gaps in that research, particularly gaps around socioeconomic areas and particularly gaps around ecosystem services. And if we're going to see our future food systems as part of the solution and part of the contributor, a positive contributor to the aims we have through COP26, then it's really important that we think about how this research can drive innovation across those multi-dimensions, across technology, but also across ecosystems and socioeconomic interventions as well. And so then the third and final piece of evidence that I just wanted to put on the table for people as part of this scene setting for the regional discussion is to look at the investment gap. Now, this was done through modelling, and the gap was looking at from a baseline scenario, and I'll present that baseline scenario, through until 2030 or through until 2050. And what this analysis showed through the modelling is that the total gap is made up of is about 15.2 billion. Now, the 15.2 billion is made up of three different components. Firstly, a component of investment in R&D, as you can see. Secondly, a component of investment through scaling climate smart technology. And third and finally, a contribution in terms of improved water use efficiency. And if we put those three elements together, we come up with that total investment figure. But what's more important in that is what it can achieve. So what the returns on investment will be. So quite a significant reduction in terms of SDG 2 and ending global hunger in all regions except sub-Saharan Africa. A significant contribution in terms of reducing emissions, reducing agricultural water use, and also reducing deforestation. And so you can see through that investment, we're getting significant returns. But now I want to turn, I guess, more importantly, to some of the regional areas. Now, I'll just draw your attention to the right-hand slide of this graph. Now, this is the business as usual model. So this is if we would just continue to do what we're doing at the moment, which is about $10 billion worth of investment overall. Now, you can see in sub-Saharan Africa, that investment is made up of international research, predominantly through the CGIAR, and the contribution from national systems. But you can see in East Asia and the Pacific that a significant proportion comes from the private sector, underpinned by the national research systems, and international research plays less of a important role within that scenario. So it's important in this regional context to understand in terms of the business as usual, so what would occur if things just kept on going as they were, in terms of the kind of different splits we get across the different regions. But then I wanted to draw your attention to the additional investment that we're going to make, and that 15.2, or in this instance, it's $4 billion worth of investment in that R&D landscape. And you can see here, we've looked at across the different regions, and we've looked at the contribution that can be made through international research, the contribution that's made with international research plus the national systems, then international research plus national systems plus research efficiency. Now here I want to draw a link to what was discussed in the first side event, because research efficiency is predominantly driven by the building of research capability at the national level. And so it's a really important component of research efficiency in terms of building capability. And then the next piece, the brown top layer, is with all of that partnership that's occurring in research to then also include the private sector. And you can see within the different regions, the different makeup. And if I look at the different regions, I see in Latin America and the Caribbean, and also in South Asia, quite a balanced portfolio where the model is suggesting that the efforts need to be made with all of that partnership, international components, nationally, improving research efficiency through capacity building, and the inclusion of the private sector. In other areas, such as in East Asia and Pacific, and you'll remember that earlier slide about the current portfolio in Asia, you can see a much more important factor of the private sector to drive that food transformation through innovation in the region. And then in MENA, Middle East and North Africa, you're looking at a greater contribution from the NAS systems through those national efforts. And then in Sub-Saharan Africa, you can see the model is showing that there's a much greater need for the role of international research to drive innovation within the Sub-Saharan African context. And then I'm coming to the end. I just wanted to try and finish off a little bit here in terms of the investment gap study, in terms of what we get from it. Now, it's hard to decipher. I haven't changed the legend on this graph, but it's similar to the last one, where it's a build from international research, then the contribution from national systems, then improvement with research efficiency, and then with the inclusion of the private sector. So what you can see across all regions is when we get international research working effectively with national systems, and there's an improvement with research efficiency, which recall I just aligned with research capacity, and that's where we move from the orange to the green. That's where we get the greatest upswing. So in terms of driving innovation through research partnerships, this data would suggest it's really important to build those partnerships at the international, national interface, and ensure that that drives research efficiency predominantly through capacity building. So to draw it all together and to conclude my contribution, so some of the key messages that are emerging, certainly there's a significant investment that's occurring, but it really needs to be reorientated across those different dimensions of our future food systems. There are definitely areas of neglect and gaps, both in terms of different food systems, fruit and veg as an example, and within different regions. And it's critical as we move forward into future food systems, that we are addressing these gaps and we're addressing that in a collective way. And also when we look at innovation, it's critical that we're able to bundle innovation and ensure it's sequenced effectively, and that innovation exists across technology, policy, financing, and capacity. So Sassy, I'll hand back to you, and hopefully that's been some useful scene setting for the regional discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. David, for highlighting how much investments are being made in different parts of the world on innovation. Participants could collect these details on what David has presented from CoSAI's website. The link for the report has been posted in the chat box for your access. I'm also happy to see that we have a wide range of audience who are introducing themselves in the chat box. If you have any questions to Mr. David, please feel free to post them in the Q&A box and it will be addressed sooner. Thank you so much again, David. Our next session will focus on understanding each region's perspective of the role of innovation in agri-food system transformation. We have speakers from 3 regions, Asia, Africa, and Latin America, to discuss what key themes, messages have come through dialogue with CoSAI and how this is influencing future plans. We will start with the case of Asia from Ms. Martina Spasiakova, Knowledge Management Coordinator of APAARI, to share her views. She has been coordinating APAARI's knowledge management program and implementing the APAARI strategic plan. Ms. Martina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sassy. I hope you can hear me well. And you can
yes, we can. We can also see your slides. Yeah, please.
Great. Thank you. So hello, everyone. So today I will present some regional insights and challenges from Asia and the Pacific region on investment and innovation in sustainable agriculture intensification. So as Ravi already mentioned, these insights and the challenges are coming from these 2 key activities actually that where APAARI has been involved. And this is the partnership with CoSAI, with whom we organized 2 very interesting dialogues. And I think that some of you actually participated in them. And the second important activity was the joint rapid appraisal that we did together with APIRAS and FAO TAP. That was last year to basically get some understanding of regional landscape for agriculture innovation systems in Asia in order to scale up the common framework of TAP. So just to give you a very brief overview of the region, as you know, Asia-Pacific region is considered to be the growth engine of the global economy. And this is because it is home to the world's fastest growing economies, but it is also known for its largest number of malnourished people, which is nearly 500 million. It also has the largest number of family and smallholder food producers in the world. And these are producing more than 80% of the food that is consumed in the region. But the region is also facing unprecedented challenges that are affecting the sustainability of the agri-food systems. And this includes largely urbanization, deteriorating natural resources, loss of biodiversity, increasing demand for food, and especially the impacts of climate change. In terms of agriculture innovation systems performance, there is really limited government funding for agriculture research and extension, which is considered to be the primary cause of the underperformance of national agriculture research and innovation systems. Agriculture innovation is considered to be the key to transforming agri-food systems in Asia-Pacific in order to make the region more sustainable, resilient, and productive. However, the investments remain low, as David also presented. National government and the private sector are the most important investors in innovation so far in the region. And APR is also the region that is allocating the largest percentage of its central government spending to agriculture. That was from the figures between 2001 and 2017. And as also the CoSAI Global Report points out, there is actually low investment that is going to towards sustainable agriculture intensification, innovation, as well as specific environmental outcomes. And one of the areas that also David touched upon is the narrow focus of investment. So if you read the global report of CoSAI, you will see that there is also the most focus is actually on crops, production and productivity, and less is going into production factors as well as macro level ecosystem that is extremely important for innovation to happen. So in this context, there is a need for increased and improved or smart investments in innovation to accomplish, especially SDG 2, or ending hunger and malnutrition by 2030. And this needs to be supported by a shift towards transformative change. And this is from boosting agriculture to produce more food, to more focus being put towards addressing the root causes of hunger and malnutrition through transformative changes in agri-food systems, but also a shift away from the linear technology transfer model, which we have been seeing like for the number of years, to the agriculture innovation system perspective that is involving multiple actors. One of the CoSAI studies that we had presented during the dialogue with CoSAI, I think it was last month, was a study looking at the successful cases of sustainable agriculture innovation, intensification innovation at scale. And one of the countries that were looked at was India. And we saw basically the expert who presented it, he really showed us the innovation pathway success story of India, and he identified the key factors that are actually driving innovation at scale in India. And what is really interesting to see is that all these 4 points that I will just be presenting now are referring to functional capacities, that is non-technical capacity that is really important in driving change. So the first one is leadership, that drives the direction and success of innovation. And for this, leaders need to have capacity to inspire others, to think strategically, as well as a certain level of political influence. And the recommendation here is to invest in developing leaders for innovation programs. He also presented a mix of formal and informal actions that need to come together, which is another success factor, because we are seeing a lot of innovation actually happening in communities at the grassroots level, and some of them are even being formalized to particular programs. So we need to be able to document these and build on these. We need to invest in creating spaces for innovation, for informal action and interaction through various networking platforms and innovation hubs. And the third factor of success is a strategic bundling of solutions in a flexible manner. And for this, we need to invest in capacity of innovators to keep the bundle of interventions effective. And this is by strategizing and responding to new findings when they emerge. And the last one, which is also extremely important, is trust building. Trust building with key stakeholders that is essential for long-term sustainability. And this includes, or what is really important here to mention, that it is not just about evidence from research, but especially testimonials from farmers who can influence others, other farmers to adopt various innovative solutions. So for this, we need to invest in instruments that establish trust with all key stakeholders, and also capacity to understand the stakeholders themselves, their motivation and their behavior. So during the 2 dialogues that we had, 5 key areas came up very strongly. And of course, these are very much related to the priority areas also of TAP, which focus on partnership, capacity development, and enabling environment for innovation. And this is a need for a paradigm shift that goes beyond profitability, small scale farmers at the center of the paradigm shift, smarter investments, the how of innovation, and the development of new business models. So we discussed these issues in the context of the Asia Pacific region. And when it comes to the first one, the paradigm shift, we basically found also through other studies, or including even the JRA study in Asia last year, that the focus on technology innovation does not enable impact. So for this, we need to really change this perception of innovation and try to see it as a process to develop an innovative environment that tackles not just technologies, but also innovative policy, finance, and institutional capacity development. We need to be able to ensure equity and sustainability of the future food system that is evidence-based. So again, it's not just evidence coming from research, which of course is extremely important, but also to include testimonials from farmers, from the users themselves. And bringing the agriculture innovation system perspectives into NARS, advisory services and education, to be able to change those mindsets, to create a culture of innovation that builds sustainable food, future food systems. So addressing the various issues that we have in the future food systems also requires small-scale farmers to be in the center of this paradigm shift. So what we need to look at is we need to look beyond innovative technologies and really pay attention more at what it really takes to bring investment at scale in agriculture. So we need to consider small-scale farmers who really need these innovations. We need to be able to build multi-actor partnerships, as well as build on those partnerships that already exist. And of course, ensuring that partnership is creating an enabling environment that tackles the difficulties and complexities of institutions and political incentives, which is also one of the key challenges that we are facing and we need to overcome. In terms of smarter investments in innovation, this is the area where we probably spend most time discussing during our dialogues. And what we have, these are the key points that are coming, that are emerging from this dialogue. So what we really need is to increase and reorient some of the current spending, which also David mentioned, towards more explicitly targeted sustainable outcomes and functional capacity development for innovation. We need to be able to use also high quality, up-to-date data on capacity and investment in agriculture innovation. A lot of it already exists, but a lot of that we need to still generate to convince policy and decision makers that investment in innovation can be profitable as well as responsive to social and green agenda. So we need to be, in other words, we need to be able to show why it pays off to invest in research and innovation. And we also need to show how countries progress and track this progress over time, how they assess the long-term impact of investment in innovation on agricultural productivity as well as social objectives. So as David mentioned, the ongoing work of CoSAI is looking into this through the establishment of CoSAI task force that is developing principles and metrics to provide harmonized principles in order to guide investors towards including these environmental and social objectives in their investments. We need to also develop blended finance models to mobilize private capital towards scaling up of agriculture innovation for impact, but also include neglected areas of innovation. Again, David just touched upon it. And as we have seen also in the case of ASTI, the ASTI program, we need to work more with local champions in order to influence those investment decisions. And lastly, embedding digital technologies in investments. This is a really integral part of the innovation ecosystems as well. Now the how of innovation, and this is where I would like to talk a little bit more about the importance of functional capacities in driving institutional change and innovation at scale. Through our JRA study, we have actually identified a lot of success stories that are proving that functional capacity development is really a powerful drive behind innovation. So we need to be able to develop functional capacities to collaborate, to navigate complexity by building and nurturing partnerships, but also building trust, integrating decision support instrument in our work. And in our work with public agencies especially, we need to promote more out-of-the-box thinking and cross-pollination within public agencies to really foster a culture that encourages and rewards different ways of thinking to reach innovative solutions and accelerates agriculture innovation. So this is slowly already happening in some countries all over Asia, but we need to do much more work. And of course, we cannot ignore the role of women. They are playing a very important role in innovation, and they are also hugely impacted by the current challenges that the Asia Pacific is facing. And they really can be and are actually principal drivers of change towards more sustainable food production systems, healthier diets, etc. And we need to be able to integrate these capacities in our development projects and programs in operations of various AIS actors, especially public R&D, to enhance interaction, engagement, and create synergies. And the last message that is emerging from these two dialogues is that we need to develop new business models. And these business models need to move away from the narrow focus on productivity enhancement to a broader focus on development of low carbon, social inclusiveness, and climate. And we need to be able to make these models also an integral part of any investment decision to address the complexity and challenges of our future systems. And we need to also ensure that they are equitable models that deliver impact within the environmental boundaries of a net zero economy, models that are adaptable and that build on partnerships as well as capacity for innovation. So I will stop here. And I just would like to say that APAARI is very committed to advance these key areas in Asia Pacific through our collective actions with our partners, especially FAO, GFAR, CoSAI, but also many others that we are working with. And we are really looking forward to the next TAP action plan also that is going to be incorporating some of these actions that we can advance together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Matana, for a great presentation. I also understood that having a large number of family and smallholders in the producers in the Southeast explained the high investment being made that was previously mentioned by David. I'm already more interested to see the perspective from the other two regions. Now I would like to invite Dr. Emi Akinbamijo, Executive Director of FARA, to represent the African perspective. Dr. Emi has been in the front line of the implementation of the comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, now operating in 40 African Union member states, and is considered a key thought leader in Africa. He is fully engaged in current global disclosure and on agricultural transformation and investments in Africa. Over to you, Dr. Emi, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sasi, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you joining us from across the world on this very important program on the margins of the 8th Tropical Agriculture Platform Partners Assembly. Let me first of all say that we are greatly excited and very, very happy to be a part of this great work of the Commission, the CoSAI initiative, the Commission for Sustainable Agriculture and Intensification. And so I'm going to be sharing some of our insights, the regional insights from Africa and some of the challenges. Of course, we are yet to conduct our own regional forum, which is in the works, and it should be happening any moment, not too long from now. So I will be looking first at how these regional insights and the challenges, how they have impacted the current level of productivity on the continent. So I would like to thank CoSAI for really putting this together, and I think somebody was already alluding to that, giving a lot of appreciation to CoSAI, pulling all of these regional fora, and also to say thank you to GFAR and to the new executive secretary, Wilderkat, and the TAP members, the TAP itself, for the possibility to exchange on the work we're doing towards advancing what we describe as the cross-regional partnerships. And it's a long time since we've been waiting for this type of engagement. So we are very, very excited and happy that now this is beginning to take shape. Now, let me say a few words about FARA, because it is possible that not everybody knows what FARA is. But FARA is the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa, and is the continental apex institution for agricultural research and development in Africa. FARA covers the whole of the continent, not just the sub-Saharan African part. The forum is the platform for agricultural research and innovation stakeholders. So we've got there institutions, we've got individuals, both from the private and public sector, all across the African continent. The forum itself started out as a forum for strengthening agricultural research, and especially coordinating external investments with a very strong research at that, on focus on research. Within a short period, FARA realized that strengthening research alone was not sufficient to assure and deliver the outputs of research that have been achieved, the expected outcomes. Therefore, FARA embraced the innovation systems perspective, and it further transformed into a forum that brings and forms coalition of all actors involved in the generation, the transmission, and the application of knowledge in that spectrum and technology for agriculture. And these will include researchers, extension agents, farmers, private sector operatives, policymakers, and all the rest that come together to advance the innovation systems approach. And FARA really invested a lot of energy to establish the thinking around the innovation systems within the context of the IAR4D. The FARA Secretariat is also an arm, a technical arm that has been mandated by the African Union Commission and the African Union Development Agency, what used to be NEPAD, to serve as the lead technical institution that helps in coordinating the research and innovation dimensions of the continent's food and agricultural agenda. And this notably includes the CADEP, the STISA, the Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa, the AU-EU Research and Innovation Partnership on Food, Nutrition, Security and Sustainable Agriculture. And then the purpose is to improve productivity, competitiveness, and resilience of the Africa's food system. Now, FARA and what we call the sub-regional organizations and the sub-regional organizations, these are the ASARECA, the CORAF, the CADESA in the south, and NASRO in the north. And with the Continental Extension Organization, which is AFAS, the African Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services, collectively constitute what we now call, in a consortium sense, the CADEP XP4 or XPillar 4 consortium. Africa, as you may know, is an extremely fragmented continent, balkanized in every way, with a population of 1.38 billion, but spread across 55 countries. And this means that 28% of the countries in the world hosts only 17.5% of the global population. This fragmentation that I've just talked about makes a regional approach, such as what FARA is doing in the SROs and the regional economic communities, very important in achieving economies of scale, coherence, what is now popularly called the collective action, and the reduction of duplication, and also facilitating the spillover effects. Now, I'm going to speak to the continental framework in a minute, sharing on the role, what role innovation in agri-food system is playing in the transformation of the continent. The agenda to transform Africa's agriculture is very critical for the continent's economic development, because the continent is still very much agrarian, and it aspires to industrialize as a means of improving the livelihoods of its people, especially these 80-something% of the population who derive their livelihoods from agriculture, especially the SMEs. And it is pursuing this aspiration in a context where many economies are now moving to the fourth industrial revolution and the knowledge-based systems. Innovation, therefore, will become crucial and fundamental to the achievement of Africa's aspiration to accelerate its transformation. Now, allow me to attempt to share my screen just to share one slide. And I hope that that will come on quite easily. Right. So, oops. So what we have on the screen is the conceptual framework of the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program. And when you look at it from the bottom, and it goes on to the top, where we find the key goal that agriculture is contributing to economic growth and inclusive development. But it must start from the grassroots and to see how we, first of all, have the added value of the CAADP support, to the CAADP support. So we find that we first of all need to build systemic capacities that are needed to deliver the results. And you find at the bottom are policy design, effective and accountable institutions, strengthened institutions, capacity for evidence-based planning, partnerships, and investments. And I have heard from David, the study, emphasis on international investments, but we also must not discountenance domestic and local investments because they have their own role and their significance in the whole mix. And then the increased capacity to generate and analyze and use information, knowledge, and innovation. With all of these, will take us to the next level where we look at the changes in agriculture that are resulting from interventions of CAADP. And these systemic changes cut across raising productivity, increasing markets and trade, agro-industrial expansion, resilience of the livelihood systems, and also the improvement of natural resources and sustainable agriculture. All of these are derived from the first level that I spoke about a short while ago. Now, the intention is that we need all of these to have the agricultural transformation and sustained inclusive growth to be able to move to the top level that will impact, to determine the impact to which agriculture can contribute to the economic growth and inclusive development. And on top of it all is what we are looking for to become the overall indices of a successful transformation of the agricultural sector on the continent. This must necessarily lead us into wealth creation, job creation, food and nutrition security, economic opportunities, poverty alleviation, and the like, and then to have resilience and sustainability. Okay, I will now put the slide down and move on to a few other comments before I leave this, before I conclude. So the agenda to transform the agriculture is very critical to the continent's economic development because the continent is very, very largely agrarian and aspires to industrialize as a means of improving the livelihood of its people. It is in pursuing this aspiration in a context where many economies are moving to the fourth industrial revolution and having these knowledge-based economies. We have the CAADP in itself is the continent's framework, which I have shared earlier on. And the slide has already shown us how these can contribute to innovation and how this has been cast in the continent's agricultural transformation agenda. The framework shows that innovation works in combination with other capacities and conditions to deliver transformation. And these will necessarily include policies, institutions, capacities, partnerships, and investments, as I stated from the slide. But innovation is particularly aimed in improving the following elements. It must improve production and productivity, including post-harvest losses, the reduction of post-harvest losses, the technologies that are deployed post-harvest, And nutrition, this was inadvertently missed out in the results framework, but it became prominent in the conversation post-Malabo. And then it must bring competitiveness, value chains, and inter-African trade. And for this, we also need the mind the gap thinking, because you have to actually address the gap between the generation of research results and the commercialization of research products on the shelf. So this is the gap that is actually begging for attention in most of our food systems on the continent. We're not short on research and innovation as much as we are short on addressing this gap. And finally, there is the issue of resilience and sustainability. Now, the biennial review that is done towards the progress of CADEP, the 2025 targets, has already shown us that the overall scores of progress are strongly correlated with the scores on innovation. And what does this tell us? So moving forward, we have had what we call as the Science Agenda for Agriculture in Africa, otherwise called the S3A. And this has been developed and endorsed by organs of the African Union in a holistic manner as a guiding framework that countries can use, to develop the policies, to develop the institutions that are needed, to develop the capacities, partnership and investments that are needed to harness the power of innovation to be able to achieve the agricultural development agendas. Now, FARA, as an institution, in collaboration with the sub-regional organizations, is now spearheading this work in partnerships with the African Union Commission and the development partners. As I conclude, I'll be looking at the key messages that have come out of the dialogue with CoSAI and how this is now going to be influencing our future plans. As I said before, we have not yet had our regional dialogue with CoSAI, but we are working on having 2 dialogues in the first quarter of 2022. Now, given the above scenario, I can only state that FARA's expectation of the dialogue based on the findings of CoSAI's investment study. We know now that the study confirms Africa's underinvestment in agricultural research and innovation. We know that. The domestic investments are estimated at 3.2 billion, less than the $3 per person per year, $3 per person per year. And this for a subsector on which the continent relies to accelerate its transformation. This is a contradiction. We need to reverse this and review this. Further, the domestic private sector investments are almost negligible, and I mentioned this earlier on. Only last week, FARA was holding a major workshop on strengthening private sector engagement in research, and we are actively working to change this undesirable narrative. The bilateral investments account for a huge proportion of the investments in innovation in sub-Saharan Africa, almost 40%. Whereas these investments are welcome, we cannot run away from the fact that they are not sustainable and are associated with quite a number of risks. The rate of investment on return on investment in innovation is also impressive. With the above evidence, FARA will be leveraging the CoSAI dialogues to achieve the following 4 things. 1, we will be having a platform on policy dialogue towards increased public investment, especially in the high impact areas. We will be exploring the means of increasing private sector investments in agricultural innovation. This will be crucial because we've been talking about agriculture being private sector driven. 3, we will be exploring how to increase synergy and coherence among the various sources of investment. So we'll be having a kind of a melange of investment strategies, domestic, bilateral, private, and international. And lastly, we will explore how to increase support for regional interventions within the continent and across regional intervention. We have successes with Africa, Brazil, and we believe there is huge untapped potential in this kind of cooperation. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is what I have to share with us this afternoon. And hopefully we will be taking the next steps for going forward based on all that I have shared with you this afternoon. Back to you now, Sasi, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Remy, for a great presentation. It was interesting to see the bottom-up approach you presented on how the added values made an impact in agricultural transformation. We are also excited to learn about the shift that FARA has made and upcoming activities that FARA has in line. Thank you, Dr. Remy. The third speaker for this session is Dr. Eugenia Saini, Executive Secretary of FONTAGRO, to present the status and perspectives of Latin America. With 25 years of experience of working in strategic planning and execution of international cooperation in science and innovation, promoting sustainable agribusinesses and development, over to you, Dr. Saini, to present the aspects of Latin America.
Thank you very much, Sati, and thank you everyone for joining in this morning or evening or afternoon. I'm very pleased to be part of this meeting since it's the first time that 3 regions, 3 continents join together to talk about something that is really important, which is how we can cooperate in research and development. So as Sasi said, my name is Eugenia Saini. I am the Executive Secretary of FONTAGRO. I have a very brief presentation. I will share with you in the chat the website that you can go later and learn more about us. So FONTAGRO is an innovation ecosystem, as we like to define ourselves, for the region, for Latin America and the Caribbean, but not only for the region, because we started to work with other countries that they are not from the region as well. We define ourselves as a unique mechanism for cooperation, because we have our own capital, and this is really an institutional innovation that I really want to describe. And maybe it's also a case study, because in 1998, 14 countries and later Spain, now we are 15 countries, decided to get some fundings from the government to put it in these funds. And with the yield of the financials of this funding, the idea was to sustain and co-finance research and development. And this is what we did. In the last 22 years, we were able to support more than 170 by now international projects in the region that have been researching in all kinds of topics that they are very important for the countries. And since that, our capital rise from the beginning, that was $83 million, to now that is $100 million. So this is the way that I like to present FONTAGRO, because something that is very important for all the researchers is how we can finance all the research that countries need and the region need. And most of the time, as was mentioned by David before, and also for Dr. Jemmy, we have very good ideas, but we need to look how we are gonna finance all that research that need to be made in the countries. So by now we are 15 countries that will work together. The second point that is very important from us is our board of directors are represented by the national, the president or the national director for each national research institution in the country. And this is also very important because in our board, we have the key people that understand and know which kind of research we need to do together in order to help farmers and make their life better. So our governance is very simple, but it's very solid. As I said, as a board directors, and then an executive board, and then an executive secretariat that I run together with other people. So from the beginning, the Inter-American Development Bank was our legal, is our legal representative. And we also have support from the Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture as well. And through these 2+ decades, we have been able to do a lot of partnerships. In these presentations, I can show you 452, but for sure we are around 700. And even though we are 15 countries, we have reached 33 countries. And I will explain how. Last year, our board decided to change our philosophy and strategy. We have this vision in that we really want to collaborate in transforming the agro ecosystem and the agri-food systems in the media for getting food and nutritious food for people and make the environment more sustainable. And we want to really, as a mission, lead that articulation among organizations, public and private. And we really want to look for values that represent the different cultures and the differences that we have among all the countries that we work. Mainly our medium strategic plan are focused right now in 3 strategies. One that is focuses on everything that we need to achieve inside a farm. And we call it strategy 1, which is resilient, sustainable farm networks. We have a second strategy that focuses more on the territories and the agro ecosystems and the productive systems. And we have a third strategy, which is new in this plan and for FONTAGRO, that is also try to work in cutting edge technology that help to bring more nutritious food for society. So through the years, and especially in the last 2 years, we designed a system, online system, that retrieve all the information about our projects in each country. So this, what I'm showing right now is dynamic. I'm not gonna enter in each of them, but you can play later on the website and see what we are doing in each country. And this software, it was designed by ourselves, and actually is open source. So whoever is interested in getting it, just can write me an email and we will be happy to share with you. And this is a second innovation that I highlight in FONTAGRO is that the first one is that we are a unique mechanism because we have our own capital and we manage our funding. But the second point is every time we design a project and we implement a project or we co-finance a project, we do that in initiatives that has more than 2 countries. We don't work by individual country. We work in platform, in innovation platform, which means that most of the time in those platforms, we have countries that are advanced in some technology and maybe other countries don't have that knowledge. So together they share and they put in practice all the knowledge together and they validate the technologies and the knowledge as well at the same time. And we realize and also said by the scientists that that is very, very important because in a very easy way and with finding these initiatives, researchers can get the funding and at the same time, the knowledge and the training. For example, last year, we trained around 17,000 people among scientists, technicians, farmers, and these kind of numbers can be achieved if you work in this kind of platform, if you work in several countries at the same time. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. So as I said, we invest in multi-stakeholders platform. In that way, we accelerate all the innovation process, and we always try that those platforms are represented by public and private organizations. We understand that all this type of stakeholders need to work together when designing or validating new knowledge or technologies. And another point that we realized that was very, very important is we need to start talking about our impact. We know that it's difficult because normally a study for economic impact sometimes is a little bit expensive, but we joined together with senior economists from the CGR, and we just wanted to know what is the economic return on what we do and what we can finance. And it's turning out that on 7 projects, just 7 projects that we were able to choose with a total investment of $8 million, we measured around a return, economic return on $83 million. And this is very important because by the time we need to show results or show a kind of impact, we need to have these numbers, and we need more people working on helping scientists and all the people who manage these kind of initiatives to understand, how is the return of our investments. And of course, we have differences. All projects are very different, and this was a first study that is also published and shows that it depends on the research. Of course, the return is going to be absolutely different. Final Lias, and then I will show some other parts of the presentation, is the agriculture sector is very important for all, not just the LAC economies, I think for all the economies in the world. To make these economies competitive and the sector competitive, we need more investment in research and development, and especially through new partnerships. And I think the challenge that we have right now, and I was just making a summary from where I was hearing, is we have 3 challenges that are very, very important. First of all, research and development that is changing so fast. We have so many demands. We have the impact of climate change, and we have to research on cutting edge and new discoveries, but at the same time, we need to pay attention to other technologies that they are still important, as, for example, how we can also close the gap in productivity. Not all the countries have achieved that. So it's like if we have a dual agenda, we need to know how to manage that at the same time. For that, last year in FONTAGRO, we launched a scientific committee that everyone is invited. We are going to have activities for 2022, and we also launched a very simple survey with the scientists, with the chief scientists of all the organizations, to try and to identify which are the main areas where their institution thinks they need to increase investment. So research and development is one of the big challenges that we have ahead. But at the same time, we have ahead the challenge of policies and finance. I think it's not helpful to design policies that they cannot come together with a plan on how we are going to finance that policy. And this is very important from the side that we always tend to think on which kind of paper we can design, which kind of book. But by now, what I think is important is how we are going to put in place, how we are going to execute and implement all the policies, not just for the researchers, for increase the investment in research, but also to make that transfer from the research to the farmers. And the third point that is very important is knowledge management and communication. We need to pay really a lot of attention in how we can share and disseminate the results that we have or we get from the projects and from the national research institutions working together with other institutions and working together with the other agencies in the private sector to the farmers. So this is the 3 points that we are really paying a lot of attention from FONTAGRO. And we also work with other partners on doing that. And talking about knowledge and knowledge management, on this platform, you can find all the different projects that there are so many. Right now, we have around 50 international platforms that they are running in topic as plantain, bananas, soil, carbon sequestration, water management. Is a really very diverse. And we have finally here our platform, where by now we have co-funded 171 projects for around $120 million. And again, the importance of these kind of mechanisms when they are on capital is in 22 years, we not only keep the capital growing from 83 to $100 million, but also we co-invest in $129 million, more than one time the total capital of FONTAGRO in research, especially focuses on the private and public sector, because FONTAGRO is focuses on creating regional public goods. But also we have a very important participation from the private sector as well. So again, thank you very much for inviting FONTAGRO to this presentation. My goal is to make this a very brief presentation with all of you, because I know you may want to have other questions, and I will be happy to answer any other question that you can send me by email. And thank you very much for the organizers of this meeting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saini, for providing the insights of Latin America and highlighting the importance of multi-stakeholder investment. We also see that several questions from the participants are being addressed by the panelists in the Q&A box. It is very great to see such engagement in this event. We now heard these interesting evidences from different regions. It is also important that we analyze the common and uncommon themes in different regions and identify the opportunities. I would like to call our three speakers, Ms. Martina, Dr. Emmy, and Dr. Saini, for a panel discussion and reflection on each other's presentation. So in line with these findings and work you're doing, I would like to ask one question to all three of you, and please anyone could answer this to get your different perspectives. So from the regional insights, what do you identify as the common issues that would be valued for ongoing collaborations?
Well, I go first. So
please go ahead.
I think right now is more an issue of coordination and also funding. Some different mechanisms have different opportunities to get funding, and as I said, the strategy to co-finance together initiative I think is very important, because in that way we have researchers from the National Research Institution and also from universities that can get together and exchange their knowledge, support one each other, and validate all the technologies and the knowledge they need through different countries. I think in the last 10 years, the business model of FONTAGRO, and I believe that Jamie and Ravi will say something similar, has changed. They are evolving according to the business environment that we need to play. And I think more coordination is one of the challenges. And I think this meeting is one example. We achieved to coordinate, to get together at the first time. So that's my opinion. I don't know, Jamie and Ravi.
Okay, maybe I can come in, if I may, Sasi.
Please go ahead, Dr. Emmy.
Thank you. Now, speaking for the African constituency, it is important, as I showed earlier on, the conceptual framework of the CADEP initiative. And in that conceptual framework, it is very clear that we need to raise the quantum of science. In other words, the capacity to deploy appropriate science. I mean, I hear you, Dr. Saini, Eugenia, that funding is important. But funding is important when you have the basic requisites to make the advancement or to optimize funding. But in a scenario where you do not have the the requisite capacity to deploy science, that in itself will constitute what we call the most limiting factor when you are looking at a systemic evolution. The second thing is that it is very good that the Latin American countries that you have very nicely spoken, and we've been discussing what can we learn, and how we are now also trying to emulate the very best practice of the FONTAGRO model. We're also speaking with our friends and brothers and sisters from the Asia Pacific region to be able to see in their own comparative advantage and areas where they have their strengths. When you look at biotechnology and how this is gaining momentum in the Asia Pacific, how it's being deployed and technologies are getting to the last mile. These are things that through effective partnerships, we can, especially using the instrumentality of the South-South Technical Cooperation, we can actually help each other, because we need partnership, we need each other. And it is very clear in my mind that there are things that Africa has that the other fora will need, and there are things that the other fora need that Africa has. So having the right form of partnership across the forum, and to be able to have, in fact, to have exchange program, exchange of expertise, exchange of farmers, of technicians, that would be extremely important. And I would just close that by saying that FARA has now initiated a process by which African scientists are now getting a customized hands-on training for masters and PhD from a Latin American country. To be precise, we've started with Brazil, and as we speak, the first crop of students have already moved to Brazil to learn within these customized capacity building process that FARA has evolved. So this kind of cross fora interaction will become increasingly important as we move along. Thank you. Back to you, Sasi.
Thank you so much, Amy. So you in fact answered my next question, which I was supposed to ask, like what are the challenges and how we could overcome that. And you correctly addressed by saying, okay, like cross-cultural learning and learning from experiences from each other is a great way to move ahead. So I would also like to put one more question. Martina, please.
Yeah, sorry, Sasi. Yeah, I just want to add that in our study that we did with APAARI, so we looked at the role of the agricultural research and extension systems, and this role is actually quite inadequate at the moment, and they really, what we found is really the capacity gap in innovation. So capacities to innovate for innovation need to be built. And I agree with Yemi that we need to see like how we can exchange some of the expertise and experiences that we are having in different regions. And one example is we are now starting to work with ICGB in Africa. So we are involved in a program. APAARI is involved in the program on pesticide residue mitigation, where we are bringing the lessons from an experience from the Asian project into South African context. And that is like one concrete example, because as you know, we will be doing training of trainers, we will be doing various activities, but we will be helping also Africa to really blend those functional and technical capacities that are so important for innovation. So and this is one area of exchange of expertise, but also what was mentioned before, I think we need to join hands in terms of mobilizing resources collectively, because we now have identified like specific areas that really need to be changed, or need to be kind of advanced towards this transformative change. But we will need additional resources. We cannot do this on our own. We need to have, we need to build on the existing partnerships, and it's really just a matter of coordination. So I think that we also need to be able to use those functional capacities that we have also as regional agencies and work together more.
Thank you so much, Martina. And I also strongly agree with the points that you mentioned also came up as one of the key messages, that is like the gap, which is also the importance of functional capacity building in these regions. So I really agree with that. And then I would just like to end this panel discussion by asking a question to each one of you. If you could be just clear and crisp with a very few words. What do you see as the benefits of ongoing cross-regional learning? So we do suggest that this will encourage so many innovation investments, but how do you see what are the benefits you see in the current cross-regional learning? Martina, we would start with you and then go ahead to the.
Okay. Yeah. So the value I see is really in bringing these diverse actors together. And somebody in the chat box asked, like, what about farmers? And in fact, like, we have been working with the Asian Farmer Association. So we are trying to bring farmers' perspectives in our work into this cross-regional learning as well. Yeah, so I think that by bringing these innovation actors together, we really need to, we are really trying to influence the innovation culture. And this innovation culture is quite weak, especially in the Asia Pacific region. There's a lot of things happening. We have very good quality researchers as also have been identified, like through various studies like ASTI and others, JRA as well. But we need to see this innovation culture really to evolve. And this is something that I want to see personally, changing, especially as a result of this cross learning and all these actors, diverse innovation actors coming together.
Thank you so much, Martina. Over to you, Dr. Amy, if you would just highlight.
Okay, well, I can only say that there's no point reinventing the wheel if we already have one somewhere. And by this, I mean that in a generic sense, whatever we can learn from each other should be like our commonwealth. And we should be able to find ways and means of domesticating this knowledge to be able to have some fast track, some mileage. And I recall once speaking with with Brazil, to be specific, and asking them, how long did it take you as a nation to transition from being a net importer to a net exporter? And I was told it's about 50 years. And I immediately responded that I don't have 50 years to wait in Africa. So basically, and that is one of the things that has happened now is, as I said, we are beginning to place Africans, Nigerians to start with, in Brazilian system to learn hands-on, customized, to generate customized solutions for the African scenario. So these kind of hand-holding scenarios will become increasingly important to avoid a scenario where we are reinventing the wheel. So partnership and partnership and partnership will become increasingly important. Thank you very much, Sasi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amy, for this great remark. Dr. Saini, we would like to conclude this panel discussion with your collective response. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sasi. Well, I agree with the two panelists, with Martina and Jamie. Cooperation need coordination to achieve all the goals that we have in order to go with the challenges that we have ahead. We need to work in partnerships. There is no way that we can work alone or on silos. And this is not just for the institution, it's also for scientists and also for farmers as well. In FONTAGRO, every time we co-finance a platform, the farmers need to be part of that platform. If we don't have any farmers organizations or farmers as being part of the initiative, we cannot co-finance that, because we understand that the delivery of the technology is not gonna be successful, or the impact is gonna be less than we expect. So first of all, very important to work with farmers. I am an agronomist by base, and I've been working with farmers and in the farms for a long time. So I know what I'm saying because I work it there. And I have to say that all the scientists and the national research institutions in our countries, as well as the universities, have a very important role on trying to identify that demands from farmers and work with them and seeing how we can improve this connection and this technology and knowledge transfers as well. So then just one thing, I think the national research institutions are very, very important to achieve all these goals because they have a distribution inside the country that is very important. Those organizations are key actors on getting close to the farmers and their needs. So I think it's very important to work with them as well as the universities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saini. We have now completed our panel discussion, and thanks to our 3 panelists for this encouraging dialogue. Following this panel discussion, I would like to invite Professor Hildegard Lingno, Executive Secretary of GFAR, to provide us the overview of GFAR's strategy and how the regional ambitions fit with GFAR future actions. Over to you, Professor Hildegard.
Thank you very much, and sorry for being a bit in a hurry, but I thought that this meeting was scheduled until now, and I have another one at 4, which I have to go to in person. So let's try to do it quickly. First of all, 6 points I want to make. First of all, big thanks, not only for the presentation we had, which was super exciting, walking us through this, the recent research that is very telling and worrying also. Second, to all the presentations from the regions, it's always so good to hear from you. In English, I think you say from the horse's mouth, but you are not horses. You are the key actors in this. So I'm always super excited to hear from you and follow your guidance. The other points I quickly want to make first in general about GFAR, a global forum on agricultural research and innovation, for those who may not have had the chance of meeting us, because we have been a bit asleep for a while, and that's why it's also difficult to answer your question, Sasirika, about strategy, because we just are about to get on our feet and up and running again. So give me another opportunity in, let's say, a couple of weeks and months, when I also had an opportunity to further exchange with our new chair, and then we'll give you more details about our strategy. But in general, all what we have been hearing about today is what GFAR is committed in doing. First of all, I should maybe mention GFAR is part of FAO's innovation stream or office. This is a new thing, and so we are hopefully making serious progress on innovations as well. And secondly, GFAR is very much committed to all what we have heard before. We don't think of agriculture or research per se. We think about agriculture for development, research for development. We are here to serve our members. It's all about smallholders, and explicitly so. Our motto and mandate is to put smallholders and family farmers center place. And we try to do that as much as possible with a focus on women, on indigenous people, as you can see with one of the collective actions we are doing on forgotten foods and young people. And we are about to reinforce our working relations with institutions and movements representing these folks. So that is just the general statement from GFAR. If we talk now or look now more explicitly on specific work we are doing, we are currently running 2 collective actions, meaning collectively with you. We are only supporting our members in doing them. One is the one on forgotten foods that was already mentioned, I think, by Ravi in the very beginning. And we are happy that after the Global Manifesto that all of us agreed on, we are now setting up communities of practice and drafting action plans. And the other one is inclusive digital agriculture. Very much led by members in Latin America, but also now getting more and more interest and buy-in from Africa and Asia. In the steering committee meeting that we had 2 weeks ago, there were also proposals for new collective actions. And just to mention 2, because they have been mentioned by you while we were talking today. Family farming and transformative learning are among those that we may want to start working on. Fourth point, beside whatever collective actions we are doing as driven by you, we have a common standard and ambition that goes through all of this, and that is partnership principles. We want research being done with and for farmers in the global south, and nothing about them without them. In order to make this a structure, we have to succeed in turning these principles into a standard, and I would very much welcome your support in doing this. Fifth point, advocacy is also something that we do with and for all of you. Advocacy not only for better, for more and better investments and for more and better research, but also for the respective policies, institutions and environment that enable investment success, as was shown by the presentation at the very beginning. So we do all this, and that is my last point, in and with our regional and national members. And we do have good plans, and I hope Ravi doesn't mind if I already allow GFAR to look ahead a bit. So we definitely want to work more closely together. Yes, okay, I thought my internet was going down. No, I can see you moving, that's good. So regional workshops to, whenever we had a chance to start thinking about our strategy, to discuss them with the regions, with our members early next year through regional workshops. We also want to start quarterly interregional exchanges, because, and we hear that again today, there are so many things of common interest that need to have a forum to further discuss. We also want to start a quarterly GFAR talk, so watch out, it's coming to you soon. And as I said, yes, we are about to start drafting and devising not only a strategy for GFAR at large, but also a partnership strategy. And that will also include principles of engagement, because I fully agree on the need to mobilize resources, but GFAR is not a funding organization. What we can do is help our members to jointly go fundraising, and that's what we started doing and we will continue doing. Sorry for rushing through. I hope it was still okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Hildegard. We are really sorry to take your extra time. Now that we have heard the future actions of GFAR, I would like to invite Dr. Selvaraju Ramasamy to highlight on TAP's plan to integrate these regional insights and challenges into the TAP action plan. Over to you, Dr. Selvaraj.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much to CoSAI and other partners for taking the TAP Partners Assembly as one of the window to exchange your views and sharing experiences. As you all aware, TAP is a multi-stakeholder partnership mechanism, initiative of G20, started in 2012. And this focuses on strengthening capacity of agricultural innovation systems. The functional capacity that was very frequently mentioned during the deliberations during this event. Coming to the key messages that can be useful for the TAP's activities, we fully agree that multidimensional focus of investment in research and innovation is critical. Studies clearly showed the investment gap in research and innovation, but at the same time, return on investment is an opportunity. This is high, and this can also be sustainable. Business as usual way of working is not enough. That was very clear from the discussions today. That very well applies to investment in agriculture research and innovation as well. Building research and innovation capacity at the national level is important. That is the ultimate focus, should be at the national level. And that is closely aligned to the TAP's mandate as well. But at the same time, international research and regional efforts synergize and complement to the national efforts. There are many actors in this domain. Private sector, national and international efforts in research and innovation should focus not only the production aspects, but key elements in the entire agri-food system. Collaboration between international research and national systems can increase the research efficiency. I think this is a key message that came across from all the presentations. Such collaboration between international, regional, and national institutions and organizations should also focus on capacity development on all types of innovation, both generation as well as its access to those in need, especially the smallholder producers. Such capacity development efforts focus on multiple actors, including producers, and also making sure that these innovations are available, accessible to small-scale producers. We believe that the lessons learned and experiences from CoSAI and the regional research and extension organizations can be very useful for further strengthening the efforts of the Tropical Agriculture Platform and its partners to promote the role of agricultural innovation systems in addressing the challenges facing the agri-food systems. We are confident that the partners of the TAP are able to take on board these priorities listed during this particular event and incorporate them in our TAP action plan that is under preparation now for 2022 and 2025. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Selvaraju, for highlighting the way forward and how you plan to integrate these original ideas. I also thank all our speakers for a great discussion today. With that, I would like to invite Dr. Ravi Ketrapal, Executive Secretary of APAARI, to wrap up the event by highlighting some key messages that came out strongly during this side event. Dr. Ravi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sasi, and thank you everyone for contributing so well. So much has been said, and mainly around collaboration and innovation. I will not like to repeat all what has been said. But the key messages we have got, there are two aspects we covered. One is the global gap in innovation, and other is the global need of innovation and collaboration to move ahead in the agriculture innovation system. Now, when we look at the global gaps and the studies which were done by CoSAI, we see very clearly there is a need for reorientation. We have to balance out the economic, environmental, and social outcomes. And the focus has to be very clear. Who will do it, how we will do it, how the global gaps will be covered, the $15.2 billion per year to achieve what we are dreaming is another question. But that is just the dimension of the requirement of investment and the importance of looking at return on investment, which was properly highlighted by CoSAI. And I think that is very important to keep that bigger picture in our mind so that we all contribute passionately to our collaboration, coordination, and our skills in the field of innovation. In fact, when I was in a school, and maybe same for Dr. Selvaraju or Dr. Hildegard or like Dr. Eugenia or Dr. Yemi, we never learned about innovation. We learned about research, science, and development. And innovation has become a buzzword as we came in the middle age, or maybe at the end. It has given us a fresh flavor. And the younger generation like Sasi or Josephina or Scarlett and many others here, I see them growing with the concept of innovation. So there is a big gap in the level of how we were formed, how younger generation is being formed. But the beauty is these people are imbibing the issues, the value of innovation at such an age that they will be bearing the flag in the coming years for all of us to resolve our problems. We are going to leave behind the very sense of partnership, highlight the key problems, highlight the need of coordination, and make it happen. So we had some very good presentations by all the three regional organizations. Martina highlighted on the kind of the focus on functional capacity and the integration of functional capacity with technical capacity and the status of the innovation with a rapid appraisal courtesy tropical agriculture platform with their support. I think we got some clear insights in the region. Whereas I see that CARDEP X Pillar 4 and Africa is the key. And African Union Commission is the key, which is actually driving FARA and all the countries in Africa. And they have a clear framework. Whereas in APAARI, I see we are born out of FAO, but now we are being de-linked. We are looking for our intergovernmental status with privilege and immunity, which will be coming soon. We are passing through a different phase of institutional structure. CARDEP is, FARA is quite well organized. And I was surprised to see how well FONTAGRO is organized. The presentation of Eugenia was really important in this part of, because what you do comes back from the organization. And FONTAGRO, which has a base of, I think, about $102 million, financing 171 projects with $121 million and whatnot, has a good financial base. They are funding across 33 countries in Latin America and in Caribbean countries. And I think their rate of growth, the kind of working is entirely different. In Asia, we are really working very hard to mobilize the resource. We have everything, but we are a membership-based organization with some minimum membership fee. We mobilize the resource. We have got some good big ticket projects, but in Africa, you have the whole African Union Commission. There's the blessings of the government. So the three regional organizations have a completely different way of structuring and working. But what is important here, despite all that, we all have agreed very much the need for collaboration, the need for collective action, the need for developing a collective funding strategy, and the need for increasing the quantum of science, and the need for partnership. And it was very well highlighted how we can plug the capacity gaps. When we say capacity gaps, here we mean capacity to innovate. For capacity to innovate, here comes Tropical Agriculture Platform to our rescue. With the kind of modules and the kind of learnings, I think many of us have benefited, many more have yet to benefit. So we do need to be really working very closely so that we can serve the objective of the global organizations which are working for regional organizations. I think we need to complement and supplement the plus points of each other. And apart from that, there was a case highlighted by my good friend, Dr. Yemi, on the case study of a hand-holding. You know, like how the Nigerians can go to Brazil in Latin America and get some customized solutions. Those are some very good examples, good learning. I think we should really follow that and we should dive deep into it, how it is happening and how the impact is coming up. Finally, I think Dr. Silvaraju and Dr. Hildegard, they very clearly mentioned about how they are working with the regional organizations, national organizations, and the importance of the international research organizations to help the national organizations at the local level through collective actions. I think all this will make a very big difference. Both TAP and GFAR, I think, are the umbrella organizations, and the regular dialogue with them, regular engagement with them, and also inter-regional cross-talking and engagement. I think all that we really need to enhance to see how we can serve the purpose of enhancing the agriculture innovation system as a whole, not only the innovation. Building a system is finally very, very crucial. And as Dr. Selva Raju said, I will end with that. It is time we cannot do business as usual. With these few words, I would like to thank each and everyone, especially the co-organizers, CoSAI, David Scherer, and ably supported by Scarlett and Josephina. Then we have APAARI, supported by Martina and Sasi. She's moderating the show. And my big thanks to Eugenia, with whom I had been talking since few months, but for really making it happen, and we will really take it to the next level. But for the information exchange, which you mentioned, I think we have to look at Tapipedia. Already the global information, the regional information, the national information, there is a lot there, but we need to cull out from Tapipedia of seeing how best we can benefit in a inter-regional or bilateral discussions. So I thank Dr. Selva Raju, I thank Dr. Hildegard, I thank each and every participant for making the discussions very lively. Thank you, one and all.